What am I trying to say?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dana and this is Ashley, and today we are kicking off my series on Enneagrams. So last week I gave you guys a little bit of an intro on this series, so I am going to be going through each of the different Enneagram types and sitting down with someone who identifies as that type, and we will be going through what the relationship between a 1 and whatever number they are looks like. So for today we are going to start off with an Enneagram type 9. Ashley is an Enneagram type 9.
So 9s are called the peacemaker, and what they value is peace and harmony. Usually that means they're conflict avoidant, and they don't like to voice their opinion if it's like going to like stir the pot. Some traits of 9s are that they're agreeable and understanding and patient, but they can also be like procrastinators, idealists, live in their own world a little bit. I think I'm like a pretty textbook 9. I think I relate a lot with the Enneagram. Like reading it, the first time when we were in Texas, we read it. She read a 1 and I read a 9, and we were both like, ugh. Like we feel so naked. Like I think we're both very R-type. I met Dina in my freshman year of college. She tried to talk to me, but I was like non-responsive. We met at church. So people are like friendly, you know, they want to get to know you. She would like try to talk to me, and like I don't think I knew how to have conversations. Like I would answer in one word.
I occasionally drove her places and she would put her headphones on.
Okay, that never happened.
It did happen.
No, it didn't.
No, I
It
swear
straight up didn't happen. It only happens if I sat in the back and there were other people in the car, and I was like, I can't, like, there's too many new people, like I can't like have conversations with them.
So that's kind of where we met, but we then later on kind of became closer friends throughout college, and we actually ended up living together. And so we have been living together for the past 5 years. Has it been 5 years?
Yeah.
So we've been roommates, and I would say we know each other pretty well. I would say we have a pretty good idea of how the other one operates and thinks through things. In terms of kind of thinking about the type 9 characteristics and the type 1 characteristics, on a scale of 1 to 10, how compatible do you think that these types are as friends?
Oh, I think they can be pretty compatible, just like reading their characteristics. But I think like health levels have to do with it. But I think if it's like a healthy 1, healthy 9, I think they can be like very, very compatible, like an 8 or 9.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to use the Enneagram Institute, and they have a section of their webpage where they talk about the relationships between different types. So we are going to read through some of those positive and negative traits of a 1 and 9 friendship, and then we are going to kind of talk through if that's something that we feel like we experience within our friendship. First, we are going to go through some of these positive attributes. These types can see many of their own traits in the other. On the positive side, each type brings a certain idealism and a desire to change the world to make it a better place. 9s bring a more interpersonal orientation than 1s to their idealism, but both can be self-sacrificial and hardworking.
I think I would agree with the can see, I wouldn't say many of their own traits in the other, but because I think we're like next to each other, 9 and 1. So people can like 9 wing 1 or 1 wing 9. So I think then there's probably some overlap there between some of the qualities we exhibit. I think like, for example, when I'm baking, I feel like I can understand you a little bit better, because when I'm baking, I think I can be like a wing 1, where like I feel like everything has to like follow the directions. I don't understand why people wouldn't follow like the measurements, and it like drives me like crazy when I see people bake. I feel like that's one of the only moments in which I can kind of understand how you live your life, which I feel like can be a little stressful, Dana, honestly.
So 1s bring a clarity and rationality and the ability to articulate ideals and understanding.
Yeah, I think this is true. I think you help me think through a lot of things, so that makes sense. Because I think sometimes my thoughts can be very jumbled, so it helps to have someone guide me through articulating exactly what I'm thinking.
9s bring a gentle, accepting quality that nurtures and supports others without as much explicit demand for self-improvement, and prefer harmony and smooth relations over the pleasure of being right or having the last word in a situation. Yeah, I feel like Ashley, a quality that she has is that she is very like supportive of others without necessarily expecting them to improve themselves, versus the way that I like view the world is like, okay, in what ways can I like be better, or can others like be better? So I think you do bring that more accepting quality, and then you definitely do prefer smooth relations and harmony. Ashley does not really love conflict. stress at all. So in short, 9s tend to take a bit of the rough edge off of the critically and seriousness of the 1, while 1s give clarity and direction to 9s. Further, 1s feel that they have a mission in life, and they're able to inspire 9s to become aware of their own purpose and want to follow it. The 9 tends to soothe the 1, while 1s remind 9s to strive for excellence.
Yes, I think this is why we complement each other, because I think we can be like very opposite. I think 9s can soothe 1s because 1s can be more like tightly wrung, which I don't know if it's an insult, but just more like, you know, like they're more stressed.
Yeah, I think a characteristic of a 1 is that you are consistently like striving for self-improvement.
Yeah.
And I think that 1s can have very high standards of themselves. I think when those standards aren't met on their own end, I feel like it can be very easy for a 1 to get really like self-critical. And when they're not met on other people's, you know, sides, then I feel like it's easy for the 1 to get very frustrated with others. So I think it can be helpful, I think, in our friendship, because Ashley doesn't necessarily have those expectations of herself or others. And so I think she can kind of bring a more gracious viewpoint to the conversation sometimes. If there's something that I feel like I should have been succeeding in, and I'm getting really frustrated at myself, Ashley can come in and be like, hey, like, it's okay that you're not, you know, at this point with it. Like, let's step back and take like a breather and not stress out so much about it.
We can both be idealists, but I think one of the biggest like differences is that I think I live kind of like in a fantasy almost sometimes. Like I'll like think about things and be like, oh, that would be a great idea, or like, oh yeah, I would like to do that, but then I don't take the steps to like make that actually happen. So I think an example of that would be like at the beginning of quarantine, like I really wanted to like try dyeing my hair. And then so I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I would look up pictures and like think about it. And I'm like, yeah, I should do that. But then I got like, I feel like overwhelmed by the actual practical steps I needed to take, like doing the research and like buying all the stuff I needed. Like I feel like it's just, I struggle with like taking those steps. And I think it applies to a lot of like the bigger things in my life. That's a small example, but I think it does like kind of give like a broad overview of what it's like going on in my head in terms of things like that. But I think for Dana, it's like pretty different. Like she will think about something, like for example her YouTube channel, like she'll have thought about it for a long time. She'll do all of the research possible, like so many videos were watched, and you know, she'll buy like the necessary equipment. Like she'll take those steps in order to make those ideas come true. And I think that's like one of the biggest differences between us, and I think that really helps a 9. Like she'll talk with me through like the steps that I can take in order to do what I like want to do, even with a small thing like that, the bleaching my hair. Like she like was like, oh, like let me watch some Brad Mondo videos and like let me find the specific like bleach you and toner you would need. I think that's really helpful in terms of like living my life with like larger things like my career, or like I think like ministry too, like being able to serve practically. The main problem area for 1s and 9s has to do with the opposite ways that they deal with conflicts and rising stress. 1s tend to become more openly frustrated with themselves and others, and with the feeling that things are not going as they should. They begin to exude a prickly anger. So this is talking about a 1 as stress is rising, and I would say it's very true. I feel like if things are not going the way that I feel like they should be going, I do get frustrated with myself quite easily. I feel like it doesn't even necessarily have to be that things are going bad, but if they're just not going the way that I like initially planned, I think it's very easy for me to become frustrated. In terms of exuding a prickly anger or edginess with everyone or everything, I think that can happen. I think I can be short maybe with those around me in those moments. I don't think necessarily everyone notices that, but I do think Ashley, because she knows me so well, can definitely identify when that is happening. Yeah, so I think with general life, like if she's just stressed out by like work or like things going on in her life, I think a lot of people, I don't understand how people don't pick up on it, because I feel like it's like so evident to me. And then because I like value peace, like I feel like I like take on some of that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like on edge, like this is not peaceful. So then I feel like I really notice it. By contrast, when conflicts and stress increase, 9s begin to shut down and withdraw. They become less effective at correcting problems and less able to speak about their feelings or discomfort. The worse things become, the more 9s attempt to tune them out while maintaining that nothing is the matter. I have a tendency to like detach, like when I feel conflict arising, it's just like that avoidance comes in. Yeah, and I definitely attempt to tune them out and pretend that nothing is the matter. Specifically in our relationship, a lot of times I feel like it's not worth it for me to bring up, since Dana is already so critical of herself that I feel like she's probably already aware of these things, or like there's like, it's almost not worth it to like make this a bigger thing.
Like, because the one is already so kind of self-critical,
Yeah.
that you, by bringing up something that's bothering you, are going to add to that self-criticism.
Yeah, which I think is fine for like small things, but I think when it like begins to snowball or it's like a bigger thing, then it doesn't make sense to not bring it up. It is difficult for 9s to step up to the plate and take the level of responsibility that 1s are looking for. The more 1s push 9s to respond in the way they want, the less 9s are willing and able to do so. I think I have been noticing that I don't like to be controlled, or like I don't like it when people tell me to do something. What it says here, like 1s want to push 9s to respond in the way that they want, it like makes me not want to respond that way, even if I like agree with it. The quiet indifference of the 9 only infuriates the 1 all the more. In short, it is difficult for 1s to respect 9s, just as it is difficult for 9s to feel comfortable with and able to express themselves to 1.
I don't think it's that I don't respect you. So for example, I think like what Ashley was saying earlier, as a 1, I think when I like decide to do something, I decide to do it and I like move forward with it like fully most of the time. Versus like, I feel like sometimes Ashley will decide to do something and I can like see the clear steps that she needs to take to get there. And sometimes I like can't comprehend, like, I thought you wanted that, so why aren't you doing that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like wanting to start your Instagram. Like she wants to like start her Instagram and take like you know, like fun pictures on it, you know, dressed with a certain aesthetic. So I think there's a very like clear path to get there, but then like it just doesn't happen. So then sometimes I'm like, why? So I think maybe I was thinking about it more in that realm of respect, not necessarily respecting you as a person, but sometimes I think I can place that like judgment on you of like, why aren't you just like doing it?
Whereas on the flip side of that, it's like if something small changes in our plans, like why can't you just like chill?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it flows down to how the Enneagram helps us like be more gracious to one another, because it makes us see that like we all struggle with our own things. So then it's like that we're just different and we have to like understand each other.
Yeah, I feel like overall, I think a lot of these characteristics that we talked about for both the positive traits and the negative traits are pretty present in our friendship. I think the Enneagram overall has really helped us to try to understand each other a little bit better, because I think there are certain things where we're so opposite, and I think prior to kind of reading through the Enneagram, it was almost like, oh, like, why do they do that? Like, I don't get it. They've helped us understand each other, and I would also say kind of maybe grow towards that middle a little bit.
Yeah, like, I think, for example, like, understanding that Dana's she's not just doing that to be difficult or try to get her way, but it's just, like, how she thinks and operates has, like, helped me be more, like, gracious and understanding of her in that regard. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting pairing because I do feel like there's a lot that we can like learn from each other and kind of implement into our own lifestyles to kind of improve as people. But I guess that's very one thing to say as well.
I always think about that cheesy analogy of like the person that's like floating because they're like so like in their fantasy world, and then the other person has to like hold them down. But then they're like always so grounded that they like can never float themselves. So then the person floating is helping them float. Does that make sense?
That's us. Lastly, do you have any Enneagram 9 memes you would like to share?
Yes, specifically the one where someone asks, what are your hobbies? And then this like cat is like, it's two levels. The cat is like, I like nap, because we do like naps. 9s like to like nap and rest, but then at the same time it's like this like frantic looking cat because they don't like know how to talk about themselves. I feel like I have trouble saying positive things about myself. So then the cat's like, I like nap, even though, you know, like probably has other hobbies.
I think that pretty much wraps up today's video. So like I said, this was the first part in a series on Enneagrams. So look forward in the next couple of weeks to seeing me sit down with an Enneagram type 8 and kind of talk about our friendship. Other than that, let me know down below if you have any Enneagram type 9 friends and what your friendship looks like. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video.
Comment below everything you love about 9s.
Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye. Just have a plane going over. Apparently there's like a search party going on.
It's like a helicopter.
Because there's now a helicopter.
Should we be concerned?
Oh no, there's a fire alarm. Guys.
Probably are. All the videos go downhill
No,
from
okay,
here.
we're gonna-
9s are the best.